The abandoned cabin. It was a cool, moonless night when my friends and I decided to explore the legend of the abandoned cabin. Nestled deep in the woods, it was rumored to be cursed, a place where no one ventured after dark. Ignoring the eerie stories, we embarked on our adventure, armed with flashlights and teenage bravado. As we approached the cabin, a chill crept down my spine. The door creaked open with an otherworldly moan, as if beckoning us inside. The air grew heavy with the smell of damp wood and decay. Shadows danced in every corner, and our flashlights could barely pierce the darkness. We ventured further in, guided by a mix of fear and curiosity. That's when we heard it, a faint whispering, like the voices of the damned. My heart pounded as I tried to locate the source. The whispering seemed to grow louder, the words indecipherable but filled with malevolence. Suddenly, the floorboards beneath us gave way, and I plummeted into a pitch-black basement. My friends' frantic calls echoed from above, but the sound of their voices grew more distant with each passing second. I found myself in a maze of cramped, moldy corridors. The whispering grew louder, and I soon realized it was not coming from any particular direction. It surrounded me, like a swarm of vengeful spirits. Panic set in as I stumbled blindly through the darkness, my only hope of escape fading away. Hours passed, but it felt like an eternity. I was disoriented, lost in a nightmare maze. Just when I thought all hope was lost, I heard a familiar voice, calling my name. It was one of my friends. They had managed to find their way into the basement. With their help, we navigated our way back to the surface, emerging from the accursed cabin, battered and shaken. We never spoke of the horrors we had witnessed that night, but the fear and whispers would haunt us forever. The abandoned cabin had lived up to its dark reputation, and we were lucky to escape with our lives. The haunting of Apartment 13B. Apartment 13B had always been known as the cursed unit in our building. The residents rarely stayed long, and those who did complained of strange occurrences. I brushed off the tales as superstition until I moved in. It started innocently enough, subtle, unexplained noises in the dead of night. I would hear faint footsteps in the hallway, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and doors creaking open when I knew I had locked them. But the real terror began one stormy night. I awoke to find a shadowy figure standing at the foot of my bed, its eyes burning with a malevolent light. My heart raced as I fumbled for the light switch, but when the room illuminated, the figure had vanished. I convinced myself it was a trick of my imagination, but the next night it returned, its presence suffocating. It spoke to me in a voice that chilled my soul, uttering cryptic warnings and promises of doom. I couldn't take it any longer. Desperate, I reached out to a paranormal investigator, hoping for answers. When they arrived, their equipment detected unusual energy in the apartment. They urged me to leave, but I refused, determined to confront whatever haunted 13B. That night, we conducted a séance. The room grew icy cold, and a sinister presence filled the air. The investigator asked a question, and the entity responded with a violent gust of wind that blew out the candles, plunging us into darkness. When we relit the candles, the investigator's face was ashen. They told me that the entity was angry, trapped, and that I had unwittingly become its anchor to the physical world. It hungered for release, and it was willing to do anything to achieve it. Over the next few days, the entity's torment escalated. Objects flew through the air, and my sanity unraveled. I realized the investigator had been right. I was its prisoner. I had to find a way to break free. With the investigator's guidance, we performed a ritual to sever the entity's connection to me. It was a harrowing experience, as if I were battling a force from the depths of hell. But in the end, the entity was banished, leaving Apartment 13B in peace. I moved out shortly after, but the memory of that haunting experience still lingers. Apartment 13B was indeed cursed, and I had come face to face with a malevolent entity beyond imagination. The Silent Forest. The forest had always been a place of tranquility, a sanctuary for solitude and reflection. But one summer's day, I ventured deeper into its heart, where the shadows grew thick, and the silence took on a malevolent quality. The first sign that something was amiss came when the birds fell silent. Their songs ceased abruptly, leaving the forest in eerie quiet. I hesitated but pressed on, unable to resist the lure of the unknown. As I delved further, the trees seemed to close in around me, their branches forming a twisted canopy that blocked out the sun. The air grew colder, and an oppressive weight settled on my chest. That's when I saw them, figures moving among the trees, their forms indistinct, like wisps of smoke. They whispered in hushed, unintelligible voices, their presence sending shivers down my spine. The path I had been following vanished, and I was lost in a maze of gnarled trees and tangled underbrush. Panic set in as I realized I had no way to find my way back. As night fell, the forest transformed into a realm of nightmares. The figures grew bolder, their whispers growing louder, and I could feel their malevolence closing in on me. I stumbled upon an ancient, moss-covered statue, half buried in the undergrowth. Its eyes bore into my soul, and a sense of dread washed over me. It seemed to beckon me closer, promising answers to the forest's mysteries. Desperation drove me to approach the statue, and as I touched it, I was engulfed in blinding light. When it faded, I found myself standing at the forest's edge, the sun just beginning to rise. I stumbled out of the silent forest, shaken to my core. I had escaped, but the horrors I had witnessed lingered in my mind. The forest had been a place of unnatural silence, a realm of shadowy figures and malevolent whispers. I would never forget that day, and I knew I had only scratched the surface of the forest's dark secrets.